Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. A lot of news to get to today, and we're going to have today's guest joining us in just a few moments. But first, I want to get to something. For those of you who join us each and every day on this show, you may have heard me mention the show's latest sponsor. It's our movement, which is switchwithjohn.com. I've linked up with a company that does all American-made manufacturing, from house cleaning supplies to all your daily vitamin needs, personal care items. The store has thousands of items to shop for. Due to such a high demand of all you listeners who signed up with switchwithjohn.com, I now need a few of you to join my team and help me with this project. If you're looking for remote work and you want an additional stream of income, join me on a Zoom call this Friday to learn all about it. This Friday, September 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to host a Zoom to see if this project may be right for you. Basic qualifications are that you'd be at least 18 years old and you're decent with technology. I need you all to register at Patriots Direct. Once again, it's patriotsdirect.com, Patriots direct.com. It'll be in the bio of this episode. Everyone's dollar isn't going as far as it used to, so I'm praying this is an answer to some of your prayers. Come find out this Friday, September 27th. I need you all to register at patriotsdirect.com. I will be there as well, so I look forward to seeing you all in this Zoom. With that out of the way, I want to get to our guest today because there's a lot to talk about. Our guest today is a former Fox News colleague of mine. Her name is Breanna Morello. She's now the host of the Breanna Morello Show on Rumble. Breanna, thanks for joining us here on the Great America Show. I want to start with this week. DOJ releasing an assassination letter from the second Trump assassin, offering a $150,000 bounty on anyone who could finish the job he couldn't finish. Your thoughts?
Isn't it absurd, John, that they publish this publicly and then they're saying, oh, no, it's the suspect's letter that he wrote. Right. We've seen time and time again at DOJ, they redact things that they don't want out there. They do it when they want to protect themselves. But when it comes to protecting a former president, they don't want to do that. So they obviously put that letter out there. They didn't redact the portion that offers the bounty on the head of President Donald Trump. They left that in there, of course. And when I reached out to the DOJ asking for an explanation as to why they did that, they responded to me by sending me the same court documents I asked them about. So we're dealing with people that are not very intelligent and obviously government workers, so they really don't care for their jobs. But there's no regard for President Trump's life. And at this point, with all of these failures going around, you got to assume this is intentional at this point. I mean, they know President Trump is not an actual threat to democracy, but a threat to the deep state. And so they're gunning for him in any way possible. And this is just another one of those ways that they're doing so.
Yeah, you know, I have on the show often a man by the name that goes by the name of Russ Tice, former NSA senior intel analyst, and he was a whistleblower for the Patriot Act. He came out blowing the whistle on the Patriot Act that they were spying on Americans, that they were coming after all of our metadata. And when he came out and did that, the NSA tried to ruin his life. They said he's a psychopath, he's crazy, he's got to go for mental evaluations. You know, this happens. What happens time and time again for people who want to come out and speak out against a regime. We just had the anniversary of 9/11, and I think there's still so many answers now, 23 years later. Over the weekend, I buried an uncle of mine who died from 9/11 typed diseases, and the stuff that his family went through to get $250,000, $300,000 for how these people had to live their lives, a lot of them. And we still don't have a lot of answers as to what happened to 9/11. JFK, who killed JFK? We still don't have the answers to that. There's so many questions that are left unanswered, and it's people like you and I and these other independent journalists who are going out there and doing the Lord's work, because you don't hear the mainstream media covering this stuff, because if they do, then they're conspiracy theorists, and then they have to worry about advertisers. You and I, as I mentioned in the intro, we're former Fox colleagues. These people have to worry about, you know, pleasing the advertisers and what you can and can't say. And if you're Tucker Carlson or you're Lou Dobbs, your show gets canceled. I mean, what is the media's role in all of this, Breanna?
Well, the media is helping promote this bounty. I mean, they had no problem publishing the details regarding this letter. Now, listen, at first I was hesitant to post this letter myself because I didn't want to put this on the president's head. But then I saw everyone else doing so. And so to go after what they were doing, it was my way of doing so by posting it and posting the facts that our own DOJ, the FBI, for an example, doesn't want to post the Nashville manifesto. They, in fact, will say that it will lead to copycats, but they have no problem doing this. And so you got to call out the hypocrisy on both sides at this point, because they have no problem doing this and going after former President Trump. So I think that's really telling in itself. But no one's speaking out about this. The outrage is coming from independent journalists like you and I, and it's also coming from those on social media, average Americans who are outraged by it. But politicians, it's not really happening. You know, I've reached out to several elected officials' offices trying to get statements all day today on this. And sadly, I didn't get any statements from any elected officials. You know, Speaker Mike Johnson, when you call his office, goes straight to voicemail. He doesn't even answer. And it's been that way since he took the gavel. And so it's not really surprising. You know, Chairman Jim Jordan, they said they were giving me a statement. I haven't yet received a statement from them either. And so it's extremely disappointing, but not really surprising.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the media plays a massive role. Even, you know, in the Trump assassination attempts 1 and 2, if you tune into, and I don't watch Fox News, and it's not because I don't agree with some of their ideologies. I like to listen to MSNBC and I like to listen to CNN to see what's inside these people's heads. And I think Steve Bannon does the same exact thing, because what are we going to listen to Fox News and just hear the same old shit repeated that we already know? You know, I like to listen to these people on CNN to see where their minds are. And if you hear them, I mean, these people are actually sick in their head. They're mentally deranged. You know, like this the first assassination attempt, they said, oh, it only hit his ear. You know, it was nothing. It might have been shrapnel from a teleprompter. The second one hit, well, they missed it. And the first one, you know, it was a bunch of BS too. It's literally insane. And the media, I think, plays a huge role in these. You'd mentioned copycats. We don't, an assassination letter or whatever is not going to create a copycat. These people are going to do whatever they want to do on their own. They're sick in the head. They're mentally deranged already. There's nothing we can say or do that's going to stop them. But for this killer, this second wannabe assassin, we know so much about it. According to and I don't know if it's because it happened in the great state of Florida where you're living, where it's free and fair, as compared to up in Pennsylvania where it's run by Marxist Dems. But according to the prosecutors, the FBI found 6 cell phones in Ruth's Nissan Xterra. One cell phone had a Google search on how to travel from Palm Beach, Florida to Mexico. Cell site records from the two of his phones revealed that he had traveled from Greensboro, North Carolina to West Palm Beach on August 14th, 2024. They also found 12 pairs of gloves in the vehicle, Hawaii driver's license in Ruth's name, his passport and documents. One of the documents was the handwritten list of dates in August and September and October and venues where Trump was expected to appear. We know all of this now from the second shooter, and now this is just weeks after it happened. The first assassination attempt was in July, Breanna. We don't know as much of what this shooter Crooks told anybody before he did it. We know that he had called out sick from work. That's about it. We know nothing. We know none of his cell phone data. We know none of his whereabouts before. We know none of anything. Do you think it's peculiar that 2 months later we know nothing about this first shooter, but the second attempt, we know now almost everything about him? We know his sister lives in North Carolina, where he was staying. His sister's an attorney. Do you think it's weird that they're over giving information on the second one to make up for the lack of information on the first one? Is that by design?
Maybe it's due to the congressional investigations taking place and the whistleblowers coming out in the first assassination attempt. That could possibly be why. I still haven't been able to wrap my mind around why they're doing all of this now. Crooks, like you mentioned, when he was killed, he was quickly cremated, and there's very little known about him and how he was able to gain access to the rooftop. They've suppressed that actively. Even, Secret Service blaming local PD, and local PD coming out and saying this was not our roof to secure. This was actually Secret Service. And so there's a lot of lies that are being called out, eventually leading to the director of Secret Service having to step down because there was so much public backlash on that front. So maybe that's where it's all from. But again, I really suspect the fact that he was able to gain access to all of this, the fact that he was willing to put a $150,000 bounty on President Trump's head and put that out there as well. How did this individual, the second assassin, how did he even gain access to this amount of money? I mean, he was he's a low-income American. When they were going over his finances, like you just detailed, we have everything about this guy. I think we even got a tour of his home in Hawaii. They were talking about how he was not making a lot of money. And so to have these amount of resources is extremely concerning. Now, again, he does, and the Blaze did a great report on it, it has a criminal record, a criminal past that the federal agencies haven't reported on. But he never faced jail time. There was some story that regarding, I think it was back in 2002, where he was accused of having weapons of mass destruction or whatever it was, explosive devices, but he never spent a day in jail, a day in prison. And, that in itself screams a lot of, it sets off a lot of red flags in my mind, because I don't understand why that would happen without him getting prison time.
Yeah, it's truly remarkable. You had mentioned the backlash on it. I want to take a quick break here. When we come back, I want to talk about Trump is finally lashing out after 2 assassination attempts on his life. He's finally lashing out against the DOJ and the FBI. I was speaking to you before the show, and I'd taken issue that President Trump was going too easy on these people. Even telling Secret Service they were doing a good job of protecting them. They're not. The truth of the matter is they're not. And whoever's responsible for this, I mean, it's sad. It really is sad. We're going to take a quick break here. We're talking with Breanna, Morello. We're coming right back. Stay with us. Folks, are you tired of supporting big box stores and multi-billion-dollar corporations that don't support us? Corporations that donate tens of millions of dollars a year to push woke Marxist Dem ideologies? Whether it be Amazon and Jeff Bezos or Target with their transgender clothing for kids, or even Bud Light going totally woke, enough is enough. Why should we as lovers of this country continue to support these corporations? The answer is we shouldn't. I constantly get people who reach out to me and ask, John, what can we do to save this country? Where can we shop and support American-made brands and conservative ideologies? Well, we now have a solution to stop shopping at these woke companies and stop funding the deep state, and a solution to buy American. This is something we can all do right now to kick the deep state in the teeth and stop funding our enemies and vote with our dollars. We have a parallel economy for around 450 household products. Not only can you cancel woke brands like Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson, you can also cancel the stores that carry them. I need you all to head over to switchwithjohn.com, that's switchwithjohn.com, where you can read all about our movement. We have access to a conservative manufacturer that will replace these brands and the stores you buy them from. It isn't an additional budget item, because instead of turning right into Target or left into Walmart, you're going to shop directly online, directly with the manufacturer. Folks, this is a patriot movement that is happening right now before our eyes. Every 47 seconds, a shopper is switching to our online store, and we need you to partner with us, join us, and band together. I just canceled my Amazon Prime subscription because I've truly had enough. So what do you say? It's time to put your money where your heart is? Join us today and help save this nation. Go to switchwithjohn.com. That's switchwithjohn.com to learn how you can join thousands of other patriots and help take this nation back. switchwithjohn.com. We'll see you there. We're back. We're talking with Breanna Morello. Breanna, before we went to break, Trump is finally going after the DOJ and the FBI on how they've handled his investigation, how they've handled his safety and security. This putting out a Truth Social message. This is from President Trump. Quote, the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Department of Justice, and FBI are mishandling and downplaying the second assassination attempt on my life since July. The charges brought against the maniac's assassin are a slap on the wrist. It's no wonder, since the DOJ and the FBI have been coming after me nonstop with weaponized lawfare since I announced my first historic campaign for the presidency. Again, he's speaking about the second, nothing about the first. It's a step in the right direction for President Trump to be going after these, as Kash Patel calls them, government gangsters, because that's exactly what they are. What are your thoughts on how the FBI and the DOJ have been handling this? I mean, you're in the trenches every day, foying and going after these people and trying to hold them accountable, which we really seem to have a hard time doing. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, well, the most transparent administration ever isn't very transparent. No surprise there. I think it's very obvious that they failed him. And, when I sit here and I see President Trump tweeting out or posting on his social media platform, Truth, things like that, I'm very discouraged. Now, I understand, right? He's surrounded by Secret Service, so he has to be respectful and keep in mind the fact that they are still actively working to keep him safe, if that's the case.
Yeah.
I think that he has a valid case to criticize them, especially after the first assassination attempt. Yeah. And then this was even prior to the assassination attempts. He was entertaining the idea of building the FBI new headquarters after they raided his home, Mar-a-Lago. These people have proven to abandon their oath, to go after the president for political reasons, and that they are just an extended police force of the Democratic Party. And this is the problem that's so outrageous in it. He doesn't even step out there and criticize any of them. Right. So now he's doing it. That's refreshing to see. And I'm very happy he's doing so. But I really want him to hire his own private security at this point. They can't keep him safe. They've proven time and time again, they can't keep him safe. And so he needs to look out for his best interest. They're not going to be able to protect him. They're not even putting their best on his detail. No one's going after Joe Biden. No one's going after Kamala Harris. They're going after him. But when you look at his detail, it looks like a bunch of DEI hires. It's people who are not physically capable of being able to protect him, whether it's height, whether it's weight. They're not capable of being able to shield the former president. And so the fact that he's still allowing this to happen without criticizing them, it's time to call in a private security company to do just that.
Well, you can't mention that Kamala and Joe haven't been targeted because you'll be put on a Secret Service watch list like Elon Musk. I mean, that was the most entertaining thing to me, perhaps possible in over the course of this summer. Elon Musk, retweeting a message, of a person asking a simple question, why? And he's not asking why it's not happening. He's asking prospectively, why do we think that nobody's going after Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? And I think it's because they're at the top ahead of this whole entire cabal. Yeah. To put in perspective just how bad the Secret Service is, over the weekend, an agent in D.C. who was on duty accidentally shot himself with his own weapon, ending up in the hospital. I mean, how is it that this is our Secret Service, Breanna, protecting the most powerful people in the world?
Yeah. I mean, the first assassination attempt taught us that these people are not very swift. They're not well trained. They couldn't even holster their weapons. So no surprise that you find another agent who shoots themselves. It's just not surprising. They just continue to go on with this DEI hiring practice, which you and I know is not beneficial to the people they're supposed to be protecting. In fact, you're getting the least qualified individuals to be protecting the most important people in our country. And the reality is that's all set up intentionally. They don't want the best covering the former president. They don't want the best covering the current potential vice president, J.D. Vance. You see it time and time again. So it's really not surprised that this individual shot himself, likely not well trained. I bet you if you looked at their background, you would see that they didn't probably pull in all their training hours, that they're probably a rookie. Or worst case scenario, they were hired within the last 5 years and they just really were just getting by just because Joe Biden wanted to make the Secret Service more diverse. And so they just set that bar super, super low.
I had mentioned Russ Tice before, that former NSA senior whistleblower. Last time I spoke to him, he had said to me, I said, Russ, I spoke to him. He had mentioned to us on Lou's show about a year and a half ago that the reason he got in contact with Lou is because he was concerned about President Trump's safety. And he had reached out to a friend who was a Secret Service agent at a time, and he blew him off. So he'd gotten Lou's attention, and he'd said, pretty much, Lou, I'm worried about President Trump. I think they're going to try to assassinate him. Now, this is, I think, a year and a half or 2 years ago, and Lou started talking with him, and he'd said this on the record multiple times. He'd said it last, I think, sometime in May or June when we had him on the show, and he said, they're going to try to get Trump before the election. Lo and behold, 2 months later, they tried to get Trump in July. I had Russ on the show a few weeks ago regarding this second attempt now. And I said, Russ, you predicted the first one. This is the second time now. Do you think whoever's doing this, are they done? And he goes, absolutely not. There's going to be another attempt on President Trump. And perhaps if it's coming from inside of the government, it's going to be a little bit more calculated this time, whether it be his airplane or a motorcade he's riding in. Because the truth of the matter is everything we drive and fly in has computers. And they can do whatever they want with anything and control anything. I saw something today that there's actually something people overseas are doing now to mess with our aircrafts, and it's ghosting GPS data. So in other words, they're taking a tracker from a plane on a GPS coordinate that air traffic control sees, and they're placing it somewhere else so air traffic control can't see it or where this plane, which is going to cause mass chaos. And I mean, it's just things like that, as small as that can happen to President Trump. Do you think this second attempt was the last attempt? Do you think we see another one before November 5th?
No, I don't. I think that when Congressman Matt Gaetz came out and said that there's 5 known assassination teams here in the United States, the fact that DHS knows this and the fact that DHS hasn't caught these individuals tells me everything we need to know. Alex Jones is also reporting that 3 of those assassination teams are foreign. But that just highlights what we've seen so far, John, right? The borders are open. DHS knowingly is allowing terrorists into our country. We know Iran wants President Trump dead. And the fact of the matter is it's not just, negligence. They're intentionally allowing these terrorists into our country, maybe hoping that they can be the ones that take President Trump's life so they could sit there and say, well, it wasn't us. It was a foreign government that killed him. It was them. The fact of the matters are we should have a secure border. They don't seem to want that. They pretend like they do. They're now flying in people from unknown countries or unknown people from countries that are not really American friendly into our country directly. And they're spreading them all across our country. It's absolutely absurd that we're allowing this to happen. There's really no outrage too in all of this, which is deeply concerning. But again, I don't think that this is going to be the last one. I think that they know the American people are on President Trump's side, and the fact that they haven't been able to complete their mission the last 2 times tells me that there's going to be a third, possibly fourth attempt. And it will bring absolute chaos to this country, potentially a civil war if they do get their way, because people have had enough. That's not me just trying to fearmonger or try to set a negative tone. I truly do think that the American people are infuriated when they're watching our democracy completely collapse, when Democrats just kind of push forward a candidate rather than holding a primary, when you see that the Republican candidate is being shot at multiple times. I think the American people have had enough of this. This isn't what we want, whether you're on the left or the right. This isn't democracy, and it's really going to get people enraged.
The other thing, too, you mentioned foreign state actors. If this is something coming from inside the government, a lot of people speculate that the CIA killed JFK.
Yeah.
If this is coming from inside the government, I mean, there's no better way to blame it on someone else when you're coming out saying you've got five different foreign state actors when it's our own people. And then, just blame it on somebody else and then you start a war in that country. It's not like we haven't seen that in where was it? Was it Iraq before?
Yeah.
So it's just time and time again. This government, Lou used to say, you get 2 kinds of information out of the government: misinformation and no information. And that's all we've seen from this Biden administration. I want to take another quick break here. When we come back, Mike Johnson is acting like a total rat once again. We'll tell you all what he's doing. Stay with us. We're coming right back. We're talking with Breanna Morello.
When I started MyPillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over. Your entire order ships absolutely free.
We're back. We're talking with Breanna Morello. Breanna, Mike Johnson has introduced a new plan to keep the government open until December 20th. Just so happens the government funding does not include any part of the SAVE Act, which of course is the election security bill that was voted on back in July, which President Trump had called time and time again for, to make sure that this election is as secure as it can possibly be. We know it's not going to be secure because it's just how the elections are in this country, but as secure as it could possibly be. Johnson saying it only extends the absolute necessities that this government needs. I mean, it's just another CR after CR after CR. How does Mike Johnson still have this job? And do you think he'll have it in January?
Yeah, I think he's making a good case for Republicans to lose the majority at this point. I think that's the goal here, right? Because listen, when they ran in the midterms, it was, we want the power of the purse. We're going to utilize the power of the purse if you guys give us the majority. They were handed the majority by the American people, and they've done absolutely nothing with it. Instead, they're punting the power of the purse. And time again, Speaker Johnson completely says, well, we tried. Thankfully, Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene and Congressman Thomas Massie called it out just weeks ago, saying that this was a fake fight the speaker was trying to put up with. And they were right. Obviously, it was a fake fight. And Speaker Johnson sits here and he puts out a press release over the weekend admitting that they're going to go and pass the CR. It's absolute garbage. He was hoping the American people weren't paying attention, that they were enjoying their weekend instead. And yet again, you call his line like I do all the time. It goes straight to voicemail if you call his DC office. They've never answered since he took the gavel. They also don't answer emails to the media. And so this man just runs around DC without any accountability. You know, I was at the RNC as well. I was trying to ask him questions. He darted so quickly from everyone. I think he did maybe 1 or 2 interviews and he was gone.
Yeah.
So Speaker Johnson, absolutely useless. Major disappointments of taking the gavel. Constitutional attorney probably should lose that title at this point because he doesn't uphold the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And speaking of the power of the purse, Zelensky was in America this week, actually the other day, flew in on a American-owned U.S. Air Force C-17. He was here, of course, begging for more money. He also says he came with a plan, quote, a victory plan to how Ukraine is finally going to win this war. And it comes at a really interesting time as time is running out now for the Biden-Harris administration, just months left. Nothing really happens between November and January. A new president is sworn in, especially not something this big. But he's supposed to be speaking at the United Nations General Assembly this week also. But he's over here now begging for more money. And just so happens while he's over here, he's going after the U.S. media and he's going after J.D. Vance, saying he's a little bit too extreme. I mean, is this absurd or is it absurd?
Yeah, I go with the first one. It's absurd. I mean, this guy is a total troll. We all know, sadly, Ukraine is losing this war, and it's his fault. I mean, before the war even started, he was denying the reports that even came from the U.S. intelligence agencies saying that Russia was going to invade. And instead, he lied to his people, and he said, no, they're not. They're actually not coming near our border right now. The troops that they did have, they pulled back. That wasn't true. And then the Ukrainian people were caught off guard. They were invaded. And so time and time again, he lies about these things and isn't being honest. Now what he's hoping to do is, because everyone's pretty much fed up with this. They've poured billions of dollars into this war in Ukraine. They're not seeing the results that they were hoping to see. And so at this point, Ukraine needs to go to the negotiations table and just negotiate with Russia. They're losing. If they really cared about preserving Ukrainian lives, they'd be at that table right now negotiating a deal, because there's no path to victory for Ukraine. That's the reality. It's not something that the rest of us really want to see. We feel horrible for the Ukrainian people, but the reality is they've been outmatched. Now, the U.S. has been pouring billions of dollars into Ukraine even prior to the invasion. They were never prepared. They were corrupt governments. And at the end of the day, billions are being sent there, and we've seen zero results. Now, obviously, Democrats want, and those rhinos on the right as well, want to see this war continuing on because it's obviously paying out in their favor at this point. The rest of us have had enough. We're watching our own country deteriorate, our own country get invaded, and we don't want to keep saying this anymore. And so Zelensky's obviously going to go after people who are America first, not America last. And that's why you see J.D. Vance on the receiving end of all of this.
What's the chances, Breanna, that sometime in the next 6 months or so we see, we'll say sometime in mid-November, after they finish counting all the votes and Donald Trump wins the election 3 weeks after the election, November 5th. What's the chances that we see J.D. Vance getting a helicopter out of Ukraine with a big bag of money and then we never see him or hear him about it again? Because it seems like he's like the greatest swindler of all time.
Yeah, well, it looks like there's, according to a lot of reports, and it hasn't been 100% confirmed, that Zelensky and his wife have been taking money in all of this. Now, again, it's really hard to prove, but it would be easier when the war ends to see where they all land off, if they're landing on their feet, if they're, buying these exotic cars like that have been reported in the past. So I'd be interested to see where they all land on this front. But again, I think if when Trump is elected, because I want to be very hopeful of this, it's just the election fraud that makes me very nervous. But when Trump is elected in November, I think he's going to have to go to the negotiation table because President Trump has had enough, and he's making it well known that he's not going to continue to keep funding this war. And that's why Vladimir Putin is over here endorsing Kamala Harris, because he wants it to keep going too. I mean, this has been very lucrative for him, whether it's a Biden, if it's an Obama, and if it's going to be a Kamala Harris in the White House. That's why he's throwing his support behind them, because he's never been more powerful under these individuals, except when it comes to President Trump. President Trump has him slamming his brakes and not invading any countries. So, of course, he's not going to want President Trump in that White House.
And you had Mike Johnson when he first came in and said, oh, you know, we're not going to talk about Ukraine. This, I think it was like 2 or 3 days later, he was meeting with these people, figuring out how to get the money. Mike Johnson's the biggest weasel in the world. Yeah. I'll tell everyone a quick story about Mike Johnson. Back when Lou was alive, we had, you know, it was after Mike Johnson came in, and Lou was just, you know, pedal to the metal, trying to hold Mike Johnson accountable for, you know, the job he was doing, because he got in there. Now, granted, he was thrown into a mess, but it doesn't matter. He knew what he was getting himself into, and he ran on a plan, and he knew he was lying about that plan when he ran on it, just like Kevin McCarthy. And Lou was pedal to the metal, and I'd reached out to someone high up into Johnson's office, and of course, right away, they jumped on the phone, and they sent me an email first, actually. This person sent me an email. Hey, John, something like, I heard a lot about you know, trying to like grease me up. What, you got a few minutes to talk on the phone? So why can't you just email me? And you and I both worked at Fox. We know that no email policy. It means, you know, you don't want it in writing. So I said, I know all too well. I get on the phone, and this person tells me right away, you know, I just want to, this is off the record conversation. Continuous, you know, all this nice talk with me. You know, Lou's got to understand that. And I said, stop right there. Lou doesn't have to understand anything. Don't call me with this bullshit and start the phone call like this. Mike Johnson said he was going to do this, and he lied. I had an hour-long conversation with this person, and it wound up going nowhere because it was, you know, me giving my side of the story and him giving his side of the story, and it was just back and forth. But Cole pretty much begging for Lou to relent. And anyone who knows Lou, when I told Lou I had that phone conversation, first of all, he was mad that I took the phone call because he says we're not going to relent. But not only did we not relent, we went double as hard, because you have to hold these people accountable. And I cannot tell you, Breanna, how many congressmen called me, actual members, saying, keep the power on, keep your foot on the gas, keep your foot. It's making a difference. It's making a difference. It's making a difference. And, you know, a lot of these people wouldn't say it out in public, but they were, you know, had no problem, you know, calling me and letting me know. We'd mentioned Pennsylvania. Zelensky was over in Pennsylvania. Breanna, for the first time, Luzerne County has more Republicans than Democrats since 1970. Yeah. I mean, is this, you know, reminiscent of what's going to happen in November for President Trump in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Arizona, in Nevada?
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I mean, listen, a lot of people who are former Democrats are looking at what's going on right now in our country because they're getting this invasion at their front door, because literally the entire country is now a border state at this point. Mm-hmm. And everyone understands that this isn't about race, like how the left always used to pin it. This is about upholding whatever quality you currently have of living here in the U.S. And the more illegals that they put in your neighborhoods, your quality is going down right now. And so I think most people are now forced to admit, even in blue cities, that this illegal invasion is really hurting our country. And so a lot of people, I think, are going to be quiet when it comes to voting for President Trump. That's what caught Hillary Clinton off guard in 2016, because the polls were wrong, because people were a little too afraid to come out and say that they were voting for him. And so that's why they lost. But I'm hopeful that the rest of the country is going to be this way. You know, since President Trump made his way into the White House here in the state of Florida, I mean, we're up, like 700,000, like close to 1 million Republican voters now. Yeah. And so we're seeing this all over the country, people flipping their registrations as well, which has me very, very hopeful. Now, the biggest problem is going to be the election fraud. You know, we detail it all the time. A lot of states didn't do enough to go back and combat the election fraud. Georgia's now playing catch up and everyone's celebrating. Years later. But they had 4 years. What's going on?
Yeah. Yep, it's true. It's across the board. But, you know, hopefully Georgia got their act together. I still don't trust that weasel down there, either of them, Rattensberger or their Kemp. I mean, they're both just two weasels that have a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome. But I think the voters get it, and these people want to have political careers after, so they've finally got back on board on the Trump train. And hopefully they run an honest and fair election this time. You know, they vow that they passed a legislation that they're going to hand count every ballot down in Georgia. We'll see what happens. I want to end with this on a light note. Lou is a massive fan of John Deere. Anyone who's been to Lou's farm, every which way you look, left and right, John Deere tractors. And it was the only tractors he had on his farm. He wouldn't buy Kubota or any of that foreign-made stuff. It was only John Deere. President Trump this week, back on his 2016 grind, like he did to Nabisco in 2016 and Carrier air conditioners, letting them know if you want to leave this country, you're going to have to pay a big price. And telling John Deere, who continues to try to outsource in Mexico, If you guys want to do that, that's fine. You're going to pay a 200% tariff. Are you happy to see President Trump is back with some of his 2016 rhetoric that got him into the White House in the first place?
Absolutely. I mean, we've watched so many jobs leave this country, and it's heartbreaking to see. But John Deere does fold to pressure. We saw when Robbie Starbuck was going after them for their DEI hiring practices and pushing all that DEI nonsense within their own company. They quickly folded and rejected it after he aired them out. So I think when President Trump applies the pressure, they will change their ways. Listen, if you want to be an American company and pretend to be an American company, at least I should say, you've got to have Americans making your products. Yeah. And the fact that we allow them to take these products outside the country and then sell it to us later is absurd. We need to keep pushing for Americans to get their manufacturing jobs back. And it's not a priority for those on the left, but I'm excited to see that it's a priority for President Trump.
Yeah, I don't think it's too much to ask for to buy American. Hire American. It doesn't make you a racist. It doesn't make you a xenophobe. It's supporting this country and the people who built this country. The truth of the matter is, without blue collar workers, this country doesn't run. You can go get the Jamie Dimons of the world, who run these massive organizations. But you know what? Who works in the bank tellers are blue collar workers. The people who clean up these banks are blue collar workers. The people who built the buildings are blue collar workers. So America doesn't run without blue collar workers. And, like I said, buy American, hire American. It's not some sort of racist or xenophobic terminology. It's what it is. We're Americans, and we should want our country to win and want to cheer on our country. Breanna, you get the last word. Thank you so much for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John, for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody, for being with us today. And for all of you who want to join us this Friday on that Zoom call, you need to go to patriotsdirect.com, Patriots with an S, patriotsdirect.com. You'll just put in your information. It'll give you the info to join that Zoom link on Friday at 7 p.m. to find out about our venture on this American-made manufacturing and how it's going to change. It's going to change the way we shop and stop supporting these Amazons and these Targets and Walmarts who just don't support our ideologies. Again, it's patriotsdirect.com. We'll see you at 7 o'clock on Friday. Please be sure to join us back here tomorrow, though, for the Great America Show as our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. Please be sure to follow me on Twitter at John Fawcett NY. That's John Fawcett NY. And on Truth Social at John Fawcett. Shoot me a tweet. Let me know what you want to hear more of on this show. You could also email us at info@loudobbs.com. See you back here tomorrow. May God bless you. God bless America. And may God bless the great Lou Dobbs.